Well, here it is. My first published music album. Ah, so I just thought I would talk a little bit about it. Some people seem to like commentary and behind the scenes details on things like music, and yeah, so besides, I figured it would make a good blog post. So, um, almost from the beginning of my self publishing journey, I knew that I wanted to have a music album for every book that I wrote. I hoped it would increase my reach and my appeal by putting me in two different industries and setting me apart from other authors. But it was also a great opportunity to chase my dreams of becoming a music composer after letting my fear and insecurity prevent me from auditioning for the music school at my university, which I have regretted for most of my adulthood. I had tried a couple times to work with a recording studio to help me polish some songs I'd written so that I could submit them to a label or release them myself. I also started a YouTube channel. Very, very short lived YouTube channel. For many reasons, however, none of these efforts really panned out. When I decided to try again with the Rogue Moons, I knew that I wanted to be able to handle everything myself so that I wouldn't have to rely on other people or compromise my creative process. So this means that The Rogue Moons is not only my first novel, but its album is my first attempt at making music completely by myself. I had never used a DAW or music editing software of any kind before, and I had never recorded vocals at home before. So each of the pieces in this album represents an arduous educational process. Although I do regard them as acceptable finished pieces, they were also practice runs. They started out in GarageBand, and when I got comfortable with that, I moved up to Logic Pro X. Each piece went through several versions before I finally arrived at something I could accept. There was a lot of trial, error, sweat, and tears involved in making the music for the Rogue Moons. And by the time I was finished, I still wasn't an expert, but I had improved a lot and felt proud of myself for that. I think the album turned out wonderfully for a self-taught late bloomer who also has a full-time job and a family. All right, and again, since a lot of people tend to be interested in behind-the-scenes details of other people's creations, I'm here to provide a little commentary on each piece. So, don't worry, there are no spoilers if you haven't read the book yet. First of all, I'll go in alphabetical order. So, the first one, Crash Into Me. Interestingly enough, Crash Into Me was originally supposed to pair with a fan fiction story that I never wrote. However, I no longer remember which came first, the song or the fan fiction. I came up with both around the same time, and they sort of fed into each other. But anyway, the lyrics should basically explain it, but the song is about two people who have been resisting each other because insert reasons here. You know, use your imagination. There might be all sorts of reasons why somebody might resist a relationship. But to no avail. The singer suggests that maybe they should just try being together, even if it's not easy or perfect. It was inspired by a couple characters in the movie that also inspired the fan fiction, the unwritten fan fiction. The characters' lives clash in a lot of ways, but they still work so well together that the friction is not only beautiful, moving, and life-changing for both of them, but it lights the movie's metaphorical fire, if you know what I mean. It made me think of musical dissonance and how it can accomplish the same effect when done well, and I think a lot of ways emotional dissonance can be the same. So there's a lot of harmony in the song's composition, clean harmony that's easy on the ears, but there's also a lot of dissonance. I always loved how it turned out, and it perfectly suits the relationship between Amrik and Zelia. Next, I'll talk about Curly. So in the book, Curly is the nickname that Zelia gives to Amrik because of his long curly hair. So this piece is basically his theme. He's a rather sardonic and calculating person with a touch of angst. So it might surprise some people that his theme sounds so upbeat and positive, with a Mixolydian key and everything. However, the roguish, prickly part of him is mainly his outer layer. At heart, he's a tired idealist. I think probably a lot of us can relate to that, who wants to do good in the world and feel like he belongs somewhere. He wants reasons to believe in better things and just has trouble finding them. I wanted his theme to sound hopeful, warm, and determined because that's who he really is. Next, I will talk about Errant Moonlight. This piece started out completely different, and I'm almost embarrassed to explain. It was originally a melodramatic song about saying goodbye to someone that you love in order to go on an adventure or save the world in some way, maybe even in some self-important kind of way. I wrote it when I was grieving a breakup with my first serious boyfriend over 15 years ago, and it contained a quote from him that had upset me. He was the one who broke up with me, and I was absolutely devastated and furious. But just a note, we actually mended things and maintained a friendship in the years following the breakup. And although we've drifted apart, I have nothing but respect for him and wish him the best. So if you watch this and you know who you are, just so you know. As time passed, I didn't want to keep the lyrics anymore. I had grown past that, but I still liked the music itself. I realized it would be lovely as an ardent and adventurous piece for the Rogue Moons album, so I polished it up. Fun fact, I had to make 2 piano tracks for this one, so it's basically like a piano duet with myself, at least part of it is, and that was entertaining to me. Next up is Freckles. So Amrik gives Zelia the nickname Freckles soon after meeting her because he finds hers cute. So this is her theme. Like Amrik, Zelia is an idealist. It is one of the most important things that they have in common. But she's more impulsive and uncompromising and less prone to discouragement. Her theme is adapted from a song that I wrote to cheer up a friend around 20 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. The lyrics, which I've removed, obviously, were originally optimistic and encouraging. So between that and the music itself, it's a pretty high-spirited yet deep piece, in my opinion, which is perfect for her. So, next up is Glass Dreams. Glass Dreams was actually one of the last additions I made to the Rogue Moons album when I decided that it needed more than what I already had. I wanted a piece that would sound ethereal yet passionate as a nod to Obsidian, which, if you don't know, you probably do, but if you don't, it's a volcanic glass that will serve an important symbolic and magical purpose in the trilogy. The piano part is originally from a song called When You Come For Me, which I composed for a romantasy series that I planned to write somewhere in my early 20s. I scrapped that series years ago, but I always loved the song, so I practiced it every so often to keep it in my memory. And it occurred to me that it fit the criteria I wanted for an obsidian or glass-themed piece. I intended to release the song without lyrics. It originally had lyrics, but I had scrapped them along with the romantasy. But I couldn't resist elaborating on the glass theme when I realized that it was also a great analogy for the budding romance between Amric and Zelia. So now it does have lyrics, which I did sing. Dark glass may let you see into something, but not clearly, which describes their current approach to their feelings. They want to be seen by each other, but they also don't. So this dark transparency, to take from the lyrics, is the best that they can manage. I'm sure a lot of us have had crushes or relationships that were similar because we didn't want to open ourselves up fully for whatever reason. We were too insecure, hurt, busy, etc. But the feelings were still there. Fun fact, just to get it off my chest, I've always played this song in a very free-form style, so trying to keep it to a metronome for recording purposes was very frustrating. But I did it. For you. Oh well. Next up is Heaven's Beach. You might find this piece's origin amusing. I came up with it while I was actually trying to compose a piece for a Donkey Kong workout album. I mentioned in my introductory blog post that my first ideas for nerdy workouts centered around popular video games, movies, shows, and books. I had already designed Donkey Kong themed workouts and didn't want to deal with music copyright issues, so I decided to just create my own album inspired by Donkey Kong music. I listened to old school Donkey Kong music to get a feel for the style. Then I started trying to make something in the same vein as the music from some of the cave levels. And this was the result. I listened to old school Donkey Kong music to get a feel for the style, and then I started trying to make something in the same vein as the music from some of the cave levels, and this was the result. Eventually, I chose not to move forward with the workouts that I had already designed. There were others besides Donkey Kong, or the music that I had planned around popular media, because I wasn't sure if I would open myself up to lawsuits, and I didn't want to risk it. I had read about the creator of some Pokemon-inspired game getting sued for like $4 million, if my memory is correct. I don't know the details, but it scared the crap out of me, and I just thought... But of course, the music was still usable because it was totally mine. So I decided this one worked better as a theme for Heaven's Beach anyway. It's a very mystical kind of area. So I fixed it up accordingly. This beach makes several appearances in the Rogue Moons and will continue to be important throughout the trilogy. Next we have Mornings with You. I didn't really mean to compose this piece. It came to me while I was goofing around on the piano for fun one day. I really enjoyed it. It's so sweet and happy, but with a bit of heart-wrenching depth, or so it sounded to me. And it made me think about waking up to golden sunlight with my husband by my side. As roommates catching feelings, Amric and Zelia feel this way when they wake up and see each other in the morning, so I couldn't help including it in the album. Next up we have the Rogue Moons, the theme. Obviously the Rogue Moons needed its own overarching theme. It's overarching. Okay. This piece is another one that came to me accidentally while I was messing around during a brain break. And I saw the potential to make something epic out of it. A fitting anthem for a story about vigilantes with special powers and an agenda and a mystery to solve. I had a lot of fun developing it and worked hard on the editing, trying to include elements of both Amric and Zelia's own themes. I worry, honestly, that it didn't turn out as fantastic as it sounded in my head, but I'm reasonably satisfied with it for now. I mean, I can revisit these things later if I ever decide to. Lastly, we have The Space Between. I honestly don't remember much about how this piece came into existence. I recall sitting down and working on it, but it just flowed from my fingers with more smoothness than most of my other pieces. I remember thinking that I needed something beautiful but somewhat dark for the villain. And then this thing kind of just spilled out with little cleanup necessary from me. Other musicians and artists of all kinds will probably know how that feels. Every once in a while, something just clicks and feels as natural as breathing. Love those moments. Anyway, it's simple but elegant, and to me, kind of gut-wrenching. It's a wonderful fit for the as yet unrevealed villain. Anyway, I'm quite proud of it. So that is what I've got so far for the Rogue Moons. I hope you enjoyed listening, and I hope that you really enjoy the album and the book more than you enjoy listening to me talk, actually. I love what I'm doing, so thank you for supporting me and for being here, and I will see you later. Bye!